Hi, I'm Lisa Payne. I'm from the South Bay of Los Angeles, and I'm just delighted to share with you in this Encourage My Soul Quiet Time series. And I hope it does. I hope that what I share does encourage your soul. I know I've been encouraged by the videos that I've watched on this. So, first, I'm going to start with a prayer. So, hopefully, you'll join me. God, you are so great. Thank you so much for giving us your word, for giving us ways to encourage each other and to connect through this crazy time. Thank you for the Bible, for Jesus, for the great purpose he gives us in our lives. Amen. Um, so, hasn't there been a lot going on? I know the last several months there's been a pandemic, and that's huge. I think that all of us are impacted by that. Personally, I've had a lot of things on my plate in addition to that, and it's just made me feel kind of frenetic and unconnected from things. Maybe you can relate. Here are some of the things on my plate that are going on. Um, COVID-19. It's impacted my job. I work in healthcare, um, and I'm not a frontline provider, but I support about a couple thousand frontline providers, and their needs have increased thousandfold. A normal workday from 8 to 10 hours is now anywhere from 10 to 16 hours. And it just goes all weekend and whenever. There's just so much change going on. It's been very alarming and anxiety provoking and exhausting. Exhausting. Um, in addition, we've had major social upheaval in our country. I am saddened by the racial injustice, and trying to grasp how can I be different? How can I be someone who stands up with my sisters and brothers of color? And it's a lot. It's kind of a lot to think about. Um, and it's convicting, challenging to my character. The other thing that I'm really dealing with that's very heavy for me is that my parents are aging. My mother has Alzheimer's dementia, and they live close enough by that I am with them a lot, helping my dad, supporting him. At least I hope I'm supporting him. But I'm down here most weeks while working full time, going back and forth between home and San Diego. Um, it's an emotionally challenging and exhausting time, I think, for all of us in our family because of that. Um, on a side note, sisters, you want to marry someone like my dad. He's faithful and has not flagged in his commitment to my mom that through sickness and in health, it's real. It is real, and you want to marry a disciple like that. What a guy. But it is hard, and it's hard to watch him go through losing his partner, his life partner, the love of his life. My own immediate family, I love so much. I have three amazing daughters. Ellie is married and lives in Utah. My daughter Corey just got engaged. Life is so full. Um, and my younger daughter lives in Boston, which is so far away. And I just tell you, I want all of them in my house with my arms around them so I can protect them and make sure they're okay. They've gone through unemployment, they have their own health challenges. Um, that's on my plate. And on top of this, we've lost some really, really dear friends. They didn't die from the pandemic, but it was just hard. It's hard to not be able to grieve in person, but to have to connect over Zoom or YouTube, or those things make everything so unreal. So, even celebrating my sister's wedding because I was not able to attend because of travel restrictions, we watched it on Facebook Live. It just felt so disconnected and unreal. So I don't know about you. I'm kind of tired of the unrealness of this time. I'm tired, I'm emotional, stressed, and a lot of times overwhelmed so that I just get frozen. I'm stuck. So, can you relate? If you can't relate, please call me and help me work through this. I think that we need to support each other during these times. But someone who has great clarity during crisis is someone I admire. I'm a slow processor. I have to slow down and really think through, how do I feel about that? What is the impact this is having on my heart? And when I've gone through really stressful times in the past, I've gone back to the beginning, back to the very basics of my faith. of faith. Who is Jesus and what does he expect from me now? So back in March, I started reading through the Gospels again. It was part of a reading the Bible in 90 days, only I had kind of gotten behind, and that's where I was. And I was so grateful that to get to go through the Gospels again during this time. And the Bible calls us to keep our eyes on Jesus because he's the author and perfecter of our faith. So here are some things that I've seen in the Gospels that I want to share with you that I hope encourage you. First of all, studying through the Gospels, I started circling all the things that Jesus said about himself, all of the I ams. Jesus says it so many times, and these are just some of them. He says, I am the light of the world. I am the bread of life. I am not of this world. I am in you. I am from God. He sent me. I'm the good shepherd, and my shepherd that lays down his life for his sheep. I'm the gate for the sheep. I'm the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am he. I am living water. It made me remember that no matter what's going on around me, just like the disciples who were in the middle of the lake when the storm came up. Do you remember that story? Storm came up and they were freaking out. Jesus is asleep in the hull of the boat. This is in Mark 4:35 through 40. The disciples were just fishermen. They were just out doing their job. And Jesus is sleeping and not helping them. And they wake him up. And he says, calm down. And the waves and the wind stopped. Jesus calmed down the weather. And he calmed down his disciples and reminded them, you have to have faith. Don't you know who I am? Can't I be like that? Even though Jesus says, I am all these things, I freak out and don't know what to do. So he is more than COVID. He's more than my insensitivity and fear. He should bring confidence and peace instead of anxiety. So how different would I be if I had just remembered that Jesus sustains me? He shepherds me. He provides a way for me to be near to God by forgiving me and making me perfect. How different would you be? Another thing that stood out for me in reading through the Gospels is the way that Jesus describes us, the way that he describes me. He says that I am, but he says about me in Matthew 5:13, you are the salt of the earth. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. So you are salt and light. Salt is flavorful. It seasons the things around you. He has made me salty. It's who I am. It's in my nature. I can't unsalt myself unless I'm not using my saltiness. Has my salt, does my freaking out season my interactions in a bad way? What about the way that I treat my husband or my sisters in our small group? What about being a light? This one is really convicting to me. Am I hiding under a basket of fear and selfishness, too focused on my own things going on that I'm not thinking about my neighbors and being a light in my neighborhood? My neighbors and sisters are going through things too. Maybe they're scared and need encouragement. Finally, Jesus comforted his disciples by telling them that he was going to take care of them. In John 14:2 and 14:27, he says, there are many rooms in my Father's house. Haven't I told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And then he says in verse 27, peace I give to you, not as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled or afraid. So Jesus is getting ready to face the scariest thing in his entire life, being separate from God for the first time ever. And he knew that the disciples were going to be scared and they were going to scatter. This was the trial of their lives as well. So in these crazy times that we're experiencing now, where does my peace come from? It should come from knowing that Jesus has a place for me in heaven. He has a room prepared for me. That his life was sacrificed, lived and sacrificed, so that I could live in a relationship with God and be with him. What is peace in the world anyway? I was thinking about this. What maybe it's a good job, a good income. If you haven't lost your job or experienced a loss of income through these times, or maybe because I get to work out and do some yoga, these are good things. Maybe it's peace that comes from buying things online because it's kind of makes me feel better. Or maybe from baking a COVID cake, which tell me I'm not the only person who's done something like that. It brought me joy. But is it peace that's going to last? Jesus says in Matthew 11:29 through 30, to take my yoke upon you and learn from me. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. The burden that the world is placing on us right now by the pandemic, by the political situation, personally by the family things that just dealing with my parents in the way that we are right now. You can see I'm actually in my dad's office in San Diego. These are heavy burdens, but Jesus says to learn from him. The burdens that he puts on me to be a disciple is light and it's easy. And so looking at the scriptures and learning from him has been so helpful. I pray actually during this crazy time that when you're confused, anxious, or freaked out by the uncertainty that can seem overwhelming, that you will keep your eyes on Jesus, who for the joy set before him kept his eyes on the cross. That's what we need to do, to keep our eyes on the prize of going home to heaven, to look at Jesus and how he lived and how he taught us, and we will get through this together. Thank you.